in the war on terror, and all the post 9/11 national unity and goodwill was basically all gone by that point. So basically, by dedicating this massive and triumphant plaza commemorating the heroes of World War II, what the Bush administration was basically trying to do is say, look, Iraq, yeah, things are not going ideal, but it's worth it because people are evil out there. It's 1941 again, and we have to kill them all.
I find everything in here amazing. I mean, everything that all these people who fought in the war, they did it for their country, and they did it for a good reason, and they weren't just out there to kill people. They really believed in what they were doing.
In other words, manufacturing consent. We are now coming up on the Jefferson Memorial. Architecturally speaking, from a person who doesn't know anything about architecture, looks like a masterpiece to me. It's like the American version of the Pantheon, I think. But it was literally built during the Great Depression. It says here, FDR lays the cornerstone of the Jefferson Memorial November 15th, 1939. I mean, could you imagine if Trump built something like this?
This is a gift to the United States of America. And more than a gift, it's going to be one of the most beautiful buildings that's ever been built in the country or in Washington, D.C.
That is kind of Trump's MO, isn't it? He's basically doing what every other leader has done in the past, but he's like flaunting it in our face. So there's no ambiguity as to what is actually going on here. It also says here, President Franklin D. Roosevelt championed the Thomas Jefferson Memorial during the Great Depression to politically legitimize his New Deal policies and inspire Americans. He positioned the monument as a symbol of democracy and individual liberty, connecting his own administration's efforts to the Founding Fathers' democratic ideals. Yeah, it's propaganda, once again. And you could even say that FDR laundered the image of a founding father in order to push his political agenda. And the irony, too, is that Thomas Jefferson was all about limited government. I think he said something like, government big enough to give you everything you want is government big enough to take away everything you have. Actually, no, that was Gerald Ford. Anyway, my point is the idea of a hero is always warm and comforting. Like, if we vote this guy in or that guy in, then we will all be saved. That is why all of this is here. But the propaganda wants you to think that benevolent leaders are responsible for all of the change. But I think history, and we're talking about the real history, not the history that you read in the textbooks, shows us that leaders, whether it be in that house or that house, they really only care about getting power and maintaining that power for as long as possible. Like, if they survive politically long enough to get one of these monuments, it's likely they did some shady shit. So yeah, it sucked that Thomas Massey lost, and rewind 10 years ago, it also was pretty devastating that the establishment rigged the entire Democratic primary against Bernie Sanders. But the reality is the function of these anti-establishment leaders isn't necessarily to make change. They only have one vote. Their function, I think, is more like a release valve. To say some things in the halls of Congress that we know to be absolute truths. And, you know, it just helps us sleep a little bit better at night. Look, I'm not saying having moral people in government doesn't matter. It does matter. But we have to know that the system is always going to prioritize itself first. So if what we're looking for is change, we have to take that into our own hands. That is just the plain truth of the matter. Okay, once again, we know now we are not going to be able to vote our way out of this. If we want a better world, we have to go outside the system. We have to build parallel systems. We got to focus on our family, our community. And maybe it feels super daunting because we're just one person. But these small independent actions are the only things that's ever moved history. That is it for me this week. I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it's a little bit different than what I usually do, but I think it's necessary given the times. Let me know what you think in the comments.
This is a deceptive world. You got to be on the lookout, because if we're not careful, the U.S. could become an occupied nation. I mean, could you imagine if the Russians took over the US or Muslims or some of them little Chinese fellas? I'm telling you, it could happen and people wouldn't even see it. I'm glad to see patriotism on the rise. I'm getting my 4th of July playlist ready. Do you know what Israel's national anthem is called?
Isn't it just Israel's national anthem?
Oh yeah, here it is. Ooh, it's time for Fox News. He's an anti-Semite.
He's a dog. What'd he do?
He barked at my flag. I gotta call someone. No new wars. This is something different, my guy. Rapture, end times. Prophecies are unfolding. Yeah, hi, do you have room at your shelter? Okay, yeah, I'd like to turn in my dog. No, he didn't bite anyone. He did something worse. Do you euthanize? Well, can you? This Bible sucks. Do you have a Schofield reference Bible? Thank you. This one is much better. Wow, this is beautiful. We could use a data center here. End times are near. Did you hear Trump's approval rating? Wouldn't be Candace and Tucker.
Zionism is not anti-Semitism. Judaism and Zionism are not synonymous.
That's anti-Semitic. Who wrote that?
A Jewish rabbi.
Well, you got yourself an anti-Semite right there.
The rabbi also said Zionism is antithetical to Judaism.
The Jew hate Israel. The Jew hate Israel. The Jew hate Israel? Ooh, roasted him. Laura Loomer is quite an intellectual. Of course, Thomas Massey lost, and let this be a lesson on what happens when you're disloyal to Trump. I love being loyal to a person above all else. Like, is there anything more important to be loyal to? Keep that to use as a rag. I need it.
What do you think about people that don't want to send foreign aid to Israel?
Oh, that's not pro-America. That's certainly not America first.
How is continuing to send $13 billion every year to Israel America first?
Because that money is in America first, and then it goes to Israel second. So by definition, it's America first. It's good to be a patriot. Hey there, my friend. Let me ask you this question. After meals, do you ever...
I got a question. How much do American taxpayers contribute to the state of Israel? And then, separate question, to whom do we owe the $40 trillion in national debt? And follow-up question, is there any overlap between the bankers to whom we owe the $40 trillion and the banking family that founded the state of Israel, from both the French banking house of Rothschild and the British banking house of Rothschild, through the Sykes-Picot Treaty up through the Balfour Declaration, asking for a friend?
That's